If I give you an example, I once did a Mantle of the Expert where we were a company that did research, and we were researching ancient Egypt. And so what happened with our treasure-seeking company is that we had a letter from a Wilfred Green, somebody that I'd made up in a village somewhere else, he was a retired gentleman who was responsible for looking after the village hall, and he was clearing out the loft, and he found an object and a photograph. And so he wrote to Treasure Seekers, the company, to see if they could help him find out what they were. We read the letter out from Wilfred Green, and they were very, very keen to help this man. What he'd actually found was an ankh that I got from the local museum, and a replica, and a photograph of the entrance chamber to Tutankhamun's tomb. They didn't know what these were. They hadn't started the ancient Egyptian topic at all, but they spent that afternoon trying to find out, and they were so excited when they discovered what they were. The next day they had a fax from Mr. Green, who'd found that he'd found a map in the village hall loft. Did we know what this was? And actually what it was a map of the Valley of the Kings with the title chopped off. And the children spent all afternoon again finding out what this was a map of. And they were so excited when they realised that Tutankhamun's tomb, that was on the photograph, was actually in the Valley of the Kings where this map was. So the excitement that's generated is palpable, it's wonderful, and they have a real reason to do their research. What happens then is that they decide to, they're going to do some research for Mr. Green about ancient Egypt, and they have to make a decision about how to conduct it. The teacher isn't the authority figure telling them what to do. So in a company meeting, you gently sort of get them to understand that if they all research the same things, Mr. Green's going to have 30 copies of the same report. So they decided they'd work as offices or departments, and we had a department for way of life and a department for rituals to do with death, a department for religion, and so on, and they all did different research in their departments, different children being responsible for different aspects of that department's work. They produced wonderful newspaper reports based on this case and other cases the company had undertaken. They produced non-chronological reports on aspects of ancient Egypt. They also produced some letters from letter writing that came in towards the end of the Mantle of the Expert. What you do in Mantle of the Expert is you engineer problems and events that happen. And towards the end of the unit, they actually had a letter from the British Museum, who had discovered that they were researching an ankh and photographs and maps that had been discovered and wanted them for the British Museum. So we had to, as a company, decide whether this was something we could do. And of course they were very confused, and they said, oh no, it belongs to Mr. Green. So I had to ring Mr. Green up and find out what he said, and of course he said that he was so happy with the work they'd done, that they were the experts, that they ought to make the decision. So we had a great debate about whether the British Museum should have these artefacts, and then they had a fax from the Egyptian embassy, and the Egyptian embassy wanted them to go back to Egypt. So we had another great debate as to whether they should return to Egypt or whether they should go to the British Museum. The company made a decision. They first of all wanted to interview somebody from the British Museum and the Egyptian ambassador, and we did that by the children being in roll, and they did a brilliant job of it, and they gave the ambassador and the lady from the British Museum a real grilling. And then, having made their decision to send the artefacts back to Egypt, they then wrote letters explaining to the Egyptian ambassador what their decision was and why, writing to Mr. Green and explaining their decision to him, and to the British Museum politely refusing their request. So altogether they did an enormous amount of work with a sort of a real reason for the writing, a reason for their discussions. There's lots of opportunities for speaking and listening in Mantle of the Expert, lots of problem solving, lots of really deep thinking, lots of collaboration, skills of working together, lots of opportunities, as I said, for really sharing knowledge, sharing expertise. When they'd completed their research as departments, because I was keen that they would share that, they actually did presentations on what their department had found out to the rest of the company, and I was at the back of the classroom giving them speaking listening assessments. So, there's lots and lots of pluses for doing a Mantle of the Expert. Within Mantle of the Expert, the classroom dynamics change radically. There is no place for authoritarian teaching and no place for very much teaching that's didactic. What happens is that you as a teacher are a member of the company alongside the children. Your role is rather one of an orchestrator of the problems that the children have to meet, of the idea of the company in the first place, and of the letters and faxes and whatever that the company receive. But as I said at the beginning, there's no IU language. It's not what I want you to learn. It's what we can do about this problem. As far as sharing of information is concerned, and there obviously is a place for that, they will do research using textbooks and the internet and whatever, and any other software packages that you've got. If the teacher does need to give information, it can often be done through just simple devices like, I'm sure we've got some notes on this in our file, and you look in an imaginary file and bring out a sheet that maybe you've prepared earlier. Or it could be that they want to talk to a character and you are in role as that character, and then you can share lots of information with them, but as a character. So it really is very different, but it's very, very exciting and motivational. And in the Dore Learning programme, I've included ideas for Mantle of the Expert for every unit. You can, of course, make up your own mantle. You don't have to use the suggestions I've made, but they're there in case you want to refer to them. I really do recommend it, and there's lots of information about Mantle of the Expert on various websites, and lots of schools all around the country are trying this method. On the members area, there's a video of my conducting a Mantle of the Expert with my class that you might want to see.